evening and welcome to the Poets Cafe. It is where artists comes alive. The spoken word brings forth the inner creation of hidden treasures, expressing tones of lyrics felt within the soul, a vibration that rings stories untold. This platform represents artists of all backgrounds, be it writers, singers, spoken word, artistic expressions and painting, literature, poetry, and a journey through life. Mystery seeks to bring new ideas and opportunities through the mind at all levels. Wherefore my time leaving to tomorrow on the wings of yesterday, where birds fly higher than the mystery of dreams never knew. Why do mellow sounds ring silently without ever leaving memories of my lonely blues? We walk by the calls of nature, sing in harmony, pray for the love of the sky, dance with the stars like a feminine ballerina, gazing across the stage in a soft-toed ballerina's shoes. Welcome to the Artists of Poetry Cafe show, Poetically Speaking, hosted by Terry Benjamin and Ron C. McCray. As delighted as we are, we can't wait to engulf a new wave of presenting this platform to our audience. So sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Now, let's get started.
Let's get started. This is the show. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a special show tonight. All special shows, but this one's going to be even more special than that because we are celebrating a sister who has passed in 2024, but we're going to deal with some of the things that she left behind. Our engineer for today is Jeff, and today's agenda is Poetically Nikki, and of course I'm speaking about Nikki Giovanni, and those who don't know, I'm going to give a brief bio of Nikki Giovanni, poet, activist, mother, and professor. Nikki Giovanni is a 7-time NAACP Image Award winner, the first recipient of the Rosa Parks Women of Courage Award, and a holder of a Langston Hughes Medallion. The author of 29 books and a Grammy nominee for the Nikki Giovanni Poetry Collection. She is the University Distinguished Professor of English at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. And again, that's who she was. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. But I want to just let you know that this book came out on Tuesday. And so, again, we have a copy of the book that we're going to share with you. We're going to share some poems from this particular book because, again, you were talking about Nikki Giovanni, and she's on our board up there. You can see her up there, a young, vibrant Nikki Giovanni, and I had the pleasure of actually seeing her before she passed, and I'll talk about that a little later on in the program. But for right now, we want to, as we always do, present a quote of the day. And the quote of the day is from Nikki Giovanni. She says that, and I quote, "Poems are a good idea." And I think, again, there is no better way to express that is to go out to you. And I just want to acknowledge some people who have reached out to us on TikTok, and I just want to give them a little shout out. And so, again, this is some people who actually experience us on TikTok. And so I wanted to say, what's happening? Jerome Preston Bates. What's happening? Isu Canty. What's happening? Franchester Jones. What's happening? Benita Floyd Ward. What's happening? Joanne Blount. What's happening? Pat Hughes. And so these are lovers of poetry and the lovers of Nikki Giovanni's poetry. But we have a poet in resident. Every time we do this, we have a poet that's right here with us, and he's still very much alive and still creating some fantastic poetry. And I love this segment because we never know what he's going to come up with. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ron's poetry.
Good evening. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to also recognize and give a shout out to Ruby Shivers. My sister, our sister, the queen, Ruby Shivers. Right. And reason why is because not only that all of her sessions and her segments are so profound, it brings enlightenment to all of us. Right. But this one particular, which was on the, I think that was, Monday?
Monday, yeah, she's on Monday. Yeah.
And I listened to the show. And what really enlightened me and brought almost tears to my eyes was the fact that she had a young lady, her granddaughter, and she kind of talked about her book. But here's the interesting piece. She was so articulate in what she was presenting herself with, her reading of the book, her storytelling, her background.
Yes.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're setting her from all other kids. We're talking about all kids. Giving them the opportunity, listening to them tell their story, giving them the same opportunity to represent the platform. That's what's important because, again, kids are our future, no matter how you look at it. So I give great respect to the Sister Queen Shivers. Also, in short, I want to say this too. She also says something, but I'm not going to get too much into it. She also talked about, and I agree, because I say it all the time, it's reference to brothers.
Yes,
I don't want to say to all men, all brothers, right? You need to get back into identifying all men, all, you know, addressing them as brothers, and forget all that language that was given to you that was never part of you, and that is identifying your name. Well, this is my dog. You know, hey, dog, this, dog, that, dog, this, and dog, that. If you're a dog, you calling each other dog, then you should act like, and that's how, unfortunately, the master treats you, like a dog. The point is, get back to mannerism, maturity, and as we always say, the commentary, the art of commentary conversation. Get into the realism of what life is all about. You've been to school, you have education and everything else. But stop identifying yourself as that's my dog, that's my boy, this and that and the other. No, that's what was called to you. But the fact that you keep using it is the mere fact that you're allowed to become part of who you are. But you can't talk about what happened to us and then be free too. Well, let me get right into this because you got me on the roll now.
Thank you so much. And Ruby calls us queens and kings.
Here's one, finding solace. Bring a little peace to you. Finding solace in a place far beyond relentless concentration, allowing the mind to find a peaceful moment as nature sways around without worries about its situation, conditions, or manner of thinking. Amid chaos and howling winds, scream fade away as the innocent escape despair, finding a narrow path through a manifestation of time in a world shrouded in darkness. Darkness spreads across the plains, hunting the weak, the strong, the blind, and bring death to those who don't plead for their lives. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves, pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. And as we know, this in the 2 Chronicles 7:14 of the Bible. My people trapped in an unknown place where the endless cries have stopped find comfort in a sanctuary as time quietly speaks to the souls through a path leading towards heaven's gate. Only true believers will survive, casting their nets across the ocean plains. Teach me thy ways, O Lord, and lead me on a straight path because my enemies, Psalms 27:12. Finding peace and seek the Lord is light. His light is salvation. His promise to meet needs according to his word, which will never leave nor forsake thee. My inner home, where you dwell, O Lord, my mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotion, I stand before you, asking for grace and mercy, seeking your hand to reach into your sanctuary where my life began. Heavenly Father, you are majestic, adorned with the splendid of sapphires, rubies, diamonds, and gold. Far beyond the tears I cry, you have never denied me. Thank you, Lord, for remembering me. All this ties into as we move forward and poetically speaking, the writers singing, because everybody has a story. Everybody's pleading for, everybody wants peace. Everybody's trying to find that place of soullessness. You know, and that's what's important. So as we continue to move forward, and especially with the new books, the authors and whatnot, Nikki Giovanni and many others, countless of others, you know, even this platform, we tried to bring to you as well as what we are learning from you and authors, our past and present, as we continue to move forward. So again, finding solace. We must find peace, love, and joy among each one of us. And again, don't forget the brothers and sisters, because we can't find solace unless you start identifying and recognizing and embracing one another.
Yeah, I love that. Again, we have to have unity among males and females, among queens and kings. And that's what we're doing on this particular program. Want to move on to another segment, unless Ron has another poem he wants to share with us. Or you want to do it a little later, or what?
Let me read this one.
Okay.
Life along the riverbanks.
Mm-hmm.
Walking along the riverbanks, feeling the vibration of humming sounds like no others. Each step takes you on a journey to discover hidden treasures as a conversation of nature reveals an unexpected greeting with a mystical, warm welcome. How does one stay still while in tune with the present, a sanctuary of stories? And all the cast members applaud the stage as the participants rehearse their parts, preparing for a private ceremony that will take place with such pristine performance that one cannot explain the moment, unlike any other. Life along the riverbanks has a unique character, so marvelous that each moment transports you to a different environment, a path filled with lily flowers. Cat crawls, words are merely signs written in script. Time has no place along the main flow. It is an endless experience of how far one can travel before entering the door at the entrance of rules. And boundaries is as far as any eye can see. So, to step into a world where chaos no longer exists, and the air is pure oxygen, freeing one from death. A parade of marching sounds flows on the wings of simmering air as it gently moves across the riverbanks, reaching every heart that beats without any intrusion, preventing it from crossing over to the other side. Welcoming genuinely into a world beyond the reach of this outer world, where dreams and hopes fade and dissipate into thin air. Life along the riverbanks provides silent proof that time is a force the mind cannot outpace, leaving only confusion or mishap in its path. Nature has a pure, untainted feeling as clear as a river streams, which changes direction without revealing where it is headed. An artist paints a scene of the landscape, bringing to life a culture that one believes is as real as the day is born, a reflection of the future as a new day's dawn. What is life like along the river banks, where memories fade and thoughts of one's whereabouts lack remembrance of yesterday or today? How far would you have to travel to escape the mainstream and live off the grid, barefooted and all?
And that sounds like peace. That sounds like solitude right there. And again, one of the things we have to understand to get the most of our life, we should practice conscious solitude, taking a moment for yourself and hopefully in nature, in the park, or even sometime on the back porch or the front porch, but just spending that time. You know, some call it meditation. Some call it just getting away from the chaos that we're going through. And so, again, we're going to have some more of Ron's poetry, but I want to move on to a segment called Mind, Body, and Books. And I'm going to have two books. I've already mentioned one book, and this book here is I'm very excited about, and it's entitled The New Book, Poems, Letters, Blurbs, and Things. And this is by Nikki Giovanni, the last book that she actually published before her passing last year. And also, in this segment, I want to introduce you to another book. And this book is called Plain Jayne, and it's really the memoir of Jayne Kennedy. And again, many people recognize her from back in the day as she was a sportscaster. She was an actress, you know. And beautiful woman, and she had a very interesting career. But this book talks about what happened when she sort of moved away from the limelight. And I just want to read here on the back of the book here. It says here, Jayne Kennedy is an actress, sports broadcaster, and television personality. Her accolades for being a trailblazer in sports entertainment and journalism are numerous, including the National Sports Media Association's Ronald Award for Innovation and Black Enterprises Woman of Power Summers Legacy Award. Viacom/BET also named her one of the 10 black female firsts in TV journalism around the world. And so again, if you don't know who Jayne Kennedy is, this is a powerful book, a new book, and you want to get to know her. I really like memoirs because, again, it tells us about a person, and a person that we think we know like Jayne Kennedy, but Ron, when you read this book, you're going to realize that some of the things that we thought were positive for her were not. And again, she should have gone a lot further in TV journalism and broadcasting, but again, things happened that made that not possible. So again, the book is really great for that. So I really encourage you to read the book, and then those who are not into reading, you can get the audiobook. You get the audiobook and they actually have her read to you. And that definitely is a treat in itself. And so that really brings us to a place in the program that I'm really happy about and really excited, because we're going to talk about the art of conversation, but we're going to talk about the art of conversation in respect to Nikki's book. And I'm going to read some poems from the book, some poems I selected. There's so much in the book that I was kind of hard pressed to decide what I wanted to share. But I think the first poem that I want to read is really a poem that sort of inspired the quote of the day. And the quote of the day is, "Poems are a good idea." Well, that's from a poem by Nikki Giovanni called Poems. And it's for the Blacksburg Books Community Project. And it reads, "Poems like the sunshine warm us, like the moon make us fall in love, like the stars twinkle in our hearts, like a creek ripples over fishes which we catch, making us fall in love, like the moon on a starry night or the sunshine on a spring morning. Poems are a good idea." And I want to turn to my poet in residence and ask him, why are poems such a good idea?
Well, I truly feel and believe, even as I read, Life Along the River Banks, to identify nature.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important, because it helps one to identify or at least connect with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you cannot know your surroundings on the outside unless you delve deep down inside of yourself and think about, what is life? What is the stars? What is the birds? What is all that surround you? Even as it indicated, and as you read, poetry, you're telling the story from different perspectives.
That's right.
And that's what's important. How do you listen? And we talked about that. Being in tune with. And so again, that's, how I see it. Everybody may have their own perspective, but no matter how you look at it, you tell the story, you write your poem, and you bring it. Let the world see it and feel exactly what life is all about.
That's beautiful. And Nikki, really has led the way on this. I want to go to another poem, and this is entitled "March on Washington, 10th Anniversary." And it reads, "Let's recognize the obvious. If you want money, you got to go to work. If you want sex, you got to love. When you need community, you have to commit. If you want freedom, you've got to struggle. Some things will never change. Life is about the living." And that's from Nikki Giovanni. It was Frederick Douglass says that, there's no victory without struggle. So we have to struggle, and we have to move through our lives. And again, this book is just so great in terms of that. And I want to go to another poem because, again, this book is just so full of gems, things that, I can sit here and read this whole book. We're not going to do that, but it's tempting. And then, like, you know, again, she was a poet, but she was also an activist. And so she talked about the March on Washington. She talks about poems being a good idea, but she also talked about voting. And this particular poem is called Vote 2024. And it says, Vote 2024, it matters. And it reads, at some time, there has to be something called thinking. At some time, there has to be something called courage. At some time, there has to be black men who step up recognizing they are needed. They were needed in slavery. They were needed to destroy segregation. They are needed to vote for Harris. They are needed to understand ice cubes blow west and are not for us. Vote for Harris. Find the courage to help rid us all of the festering mold in the White House. Vote like your grandmother would be proud of you. Vote because you like to say, it ain't mine. But if not, then another vote because men vote for the future. Vote because you are not a coward. Vote because you know we need you to step up, biding your time. Because you are a citizen. Vote. We need you, brother. Vote for the love we gave you last night. Vote for the best in you. Vote. That's Nikki Giovanni saying vote. Okay, so again, it is something that we want to do. And again, I love Nikki Giovanni because she's a person that has been outspoken for many, many years. And I got a chance to meet her in person, spend time with her, not only on stage, but in other social situations. And again, and she also, like many poets, spoke at different graduations. And this poem here is for the 2023 graduates of Roanoke College. And she says here, congratulations. No matter what our dreams or situations, words are the most important evolution of human beings. We speak, sing, write, pray in words. We understand our pets and parents through words. Words paint our dreams. Words embrace our emotions. We use words to make a better world. We create words to prepare ourselves for a new world. We gaze at the stars to understand our galaxy. We look in the mirror to understand ourselves. Our eyes mirror the love we have for each other. Our words deliver the word showing respect for others. Life is a good idea. We find words, write essays, allow our vulnerabilities to flow. We do our best life with our living words. We go forward because words do not go back. We build a pyramid of words with our memories and sit in the sun and be proud. That's Nikki Giovanni, man. She was one of the first poets to actually record albums with music behind her. You know, she did an album with a community choir behind her. You know, just a beautiful person. Like, for example, Maya Angelou did an album with Ashford and Simpson. And so our poets are not just words, our poets are also about music. And I want to just read just two more, and then we're going to have a discussion. But I want to go to a page here. And this, again, reminds me of some of her best work when, you know, again, one of the things about poetry, and one of the things I think like people like shy away from poetry because they don't think they're going to understand it. And I tell you, Ron, when I got to Nikki Giovanni, I loved her because I could understand what she was talking about. I mean, she used the metaphors and all the fancy words, of course, but it was down to earth. And this poem really sort of hit me when I first read it because, again, it's that down home Nikki Giovanni. Is that Nikki Giovanni that's speaking to us directly, speaking to our hearts. And this is entitled Home to Buford Delaney. And I read, it's lonely being genius, not being understood, not throwing the football or racing the other kids, not being interested in picking on the smaller kids, hating the way other kids teased and made cry those who needed a friend, enough to make you run away from home. But home is never from home is always in our hearts and certainly in our memories. We paint home. even though it does not look like home. And if we go to France to make friends with famous geniuses, even though we miss home and even though no one recognizes we are lonely, art makes you lonely because art wants to be your only friend. Art wants all your love. So try to wander back home. Your art is understood to be great, but you are still lonely. Your greatness will come, not now, not in any time soon, but in your heart, which flies back home with your body while your body rests in another land at another time. Your art embraces you, and those who have loved you will keep your art alive. And before I go to my last poem, I want to say good evening. Sheila Bird says good evening, all. So she is a good friend. She also is a good friend of Ruby Shivers. As a matter of fact, she's the producer of Ruby's show, so I got a chance to work with her. And the last poem that I want to read here is really special, and it's special for those of you who are sports fans, you know, and those of you who see sports figures as great. And this poem is entitled January 26, 2020, and is subtitled here, The Death of Kobe Bryant. We don't know. She does. He did. I can't. You don't know the last words. The weather is bad. Don't go. Stay home. They will be all right without you. We don't know. And actually, it's not our business. Was she worried? Did she feel something? Did she wish he would for once listen? But she most likely kissed them both, wondering what they might want for dinner or snacks into the evening when they came home. She hoped that they would win, but she was so tired. Maybe just a short nap, just to close her eyes for a minute. She was cold, just needed to throw a blanket over her feet for just a minute. We don't know what she thought or said. Is none of your business and too sad to think about. Ruby Shivers says she's on board. Shelly and Ruby.
Yes.
My heart's. Thank you. And Ron, man, it saddens me, but it makes me feel good that, you know, Nikki Giovanni has passed, but, you know, she left us this beautiful collection, this beautiful collection of poetry. And she said not just poems, but letters and blurbs and things. And like I said, man, I love this picture. This picture is beautiful. And Ron, I'm gonna put you on the spot, brother, because I'm gonna do something that you didn't know I was gonna do. But, you know, I know you can deal with it. And this man loves to be put on the spot, although he says he doesn't. But, you know, I'm gonna put him on the spot. And I really want to share with you something to really help our conversation, because again, this is the part of the program we call Food for Thought. And then the food for thought is really just you and me and Ron just talking. But I just really want to go into this segment, Ron, and I really want to. I pulled out this poem that you wrote, and it's called "The Art of Conversation." And I want to read as much of this poem as I dare, and then I want to get into a discussion of the legacy of Nikki Giovanni. But I want to read this from my brother. He says here, "The art of conversation is the maze of life, hosting many unparalleled walks through it, in and out, without direct thought as to one's whereabouts, but listening to the direction for a common way to see things without the appearance of being held hostage and confused. The art of conversation is observing through listening ears while examining the outcome of the meeting towards higher planes on a more intellectual platform for communicating with clarity. Reading is fundamental, even if the level is basic. It requires an open mind to receive codes without feeling lost in a dark, cynic route, all because of one's view of it. Asking for direction is only a disgraceful moment if one remains silent due to frozen lips. The art of conversation is literature formatting an outline for the appropriate dialogue, a meeting of the mind, and resolving elementary equations to simple solutions with some ramifications for a makeover and a better understanding of where the conversation is leading. When standing back and looking into the mirror of an artist's paintings, one cannot see unless there is a clear thought of what it may appear to be. What do you see? And would you explain the imagery showing various twists of strokes and colors that outline a different path where it might lead? The art of conversation is self-awareness about one may or may not understand about one's feelings, pains, or agonizing suffering while grasping the sense of intellectual soundness through critical thinking, but what which seem to model, poetically speaking. Be a thinker. Some may be addictive thinkers, constantly seeking knowledge, while others burn their membranes to the core. In 1 Kings 3:6, God asked King Solomon what he shall give him. His response is wisdom and knowledge, so that he may teach his people. Seek what you ask for and gain knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 3:5, all your ways get understanding, the art of a philosophical conversation. And then my brother breaks this down quite brilliantly with an acronym. And this is conversation. And he says C is communicate, O is observe, N newborn, V voice, E engage, R receive, S speak, ask, A ask/clarity, T teach, I inform, O omnipotent, nonsensical / nonviolent, and he ends with James 1:13 and said, who is a wise man and endure with knowledge among you? Let him show his works out of a good conversation with meekness of vision. And I know I embarrassed my brother terribly. He's over there blushing and whatnot, but I could not start this conversation without referring to that. And so with that said, what say you, my brother?
You know, it's interesting because yeah.
He wasn't ready for that. That was a surprise.
You know, it's interesting because what I was thinking when you read that piece from Nikki, when she identified poetry, I was just sitting here thinking that poetry is a riddle.
It is.
But it's how you unfold it and start to see the bits and pieces of it.
Yes.
But it's a story. And before I respond to that, even in our opening piece, I said this platform represents artists of all backgrounds, be it writers, singers, spoken word, artistic expressions in painting, literature, poetry, and a journey through life.
Yes.
And so even as you, I mean, sometimes we get shocked and surprised by our own stuff.
That's right.
But it tied right into what you read in reference to what Nikki Giovanni had written. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it becomes self-explanatory, but it doesn't mean it's simple when it becomes self-explanatory. Yes. It means that it allows us, as you read in there, about thinking. A child thinks, everybody thinks something. Nature thinks, you know, but what are you thinking? It's the exact same thing that ties into, even with this, the other book I've written, The Archaeological Cafe, the hidden treasures within inside of you.
That's right.
And so this ties into, you know, I'm surprised even, you know, we can write. Some of us as a writer, I write, but when you hear it, we play back, you become surprised. I become surprised.
Because he didn't hear it quite like that.
Yeah. You know, and the thing is, too, I have to give credit. Because this is why I think I mentioned this before, and I often think about this. You can write books, you can write a story, novel, whatever. Yeah. And a lot of times you may read your own stuff. But you know what's surprising and what's a blessing and what's so inspiring when somebody else reads it, and the mannerism and the tone in which it's presented, it changes the whole dynamic. It's like, wow, did I write that?
Yeah, it's almost like it's so funny because, you know, at this time we usually do Music is Lit. But what I wanted to do is a little something different because as I read Nikki Giovanni's poetry, I really read it as a song. And when I read Ron's Art of Conversation, I read it as a song. It's like, you know, again, you can take one song and it could be sung by 4 or 5 different singers, but each singer has their own interpretation and their own style. And so what I was doing for my brother tonight was just showing him another way to sing that song. because I do believe that your books, this the first one and the other one here, these are poems, but for me they are songs. And so I was able to sing the song that you wrote in my own way, and I thank you.
I thank you because the way you read it, I'm sitting here listening to this audio tape, listen to the tone of it, the mannerism, and the flow of it. It was brought to life.
Yes.
And that's the interesting piece. It doesn't mean that you don't have something. It means that every single person has a talent or gift.
They
And no matter how you look at it, it's about two hands working together. No matter how you look at it. So I commend you. Seriously. I'm sitting here saying, did I write that?
and that's the beauty of creativity. Because I know for myself, I mean, I look back on some books that I've written and I published, and I look at the book and I'm reading. I said, well, where did this come from? And one of the things, I don't know about you, Mom, but a lot of times when I write a piece or whatnot, I'm in that moment. And if I lost that poem or that essay or whatever, I can't get back to that. I can write something that is maybe comparable to that, but in that moment, I can't recapture that. And that's why it was beautiful, to read your poem, but also to read the poetry of Nikki Giovanni, because she's no longer with us, but she have these words. And my question to you, my brother, is we were talking about the legacy of Nikki Giovanni. And I just what is your legacy? What do you want people to say about you once you? I'm not saying you're passing, but when you're no longer around, what is the essence of what you're trying to do here? I mean, have you figured it out yet, or is that still in progress?
It's a good question, and I like to answer it this way because something I often think about. I am so thankful that I will say this. There's no one in this entire world that will ever or could ever actually truthfully say something negative about me. And even as you pass, people along the way, whether you're friends or whatnot, I get compliments and I don't even think about it. You're a good speaker. Well, I may not, but the thing is something positive. I remember him. I remember what they done or say. That's my legacy, is to leave something positive that may have inspired somebody remembers something, whether it's my family or friends or whatever. Something somebody will always remember. Even doing this podcast, along with the brother here, it lasts forever. And that's what you want. The legacy is last forever. So no matter how you look at it, it's just like when we read books. Nikki Giovanni passing, but she leaves a legacy. But in her legacy, she has stories that she had met and learned along the way, and so on, so on. So yes, that's my legacy even now, because again, as my kids, the grandkids, the great-grandkids, and all those kids come behind, will always look at and remember, because this is in the archives of life. You can't get rid of it.
No, you can't. And the beautiful thing is, once someone said that the only life after death is really children or artistic works. Hopefully the children will live and they will spread the lessons that they learn from you. Because my only thing I would ask for my legacy, that people say he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. He was a man who was about healthy aging and lifelong learning, and he tried to use his gifts to help people. I don't expect anybody to say anything bad about me, because I don't mess with that many people. That's the secret of that. But the point that I'm making here is that we want to live a life that is inspiring to others, and that's why I'm so glad to do this program. And I'm also so glad to have my brother, who I call the poet in residence. And again, I remember when I thought about the program, I thought about having a poem, this show be called Poem Counterpoint, where one poet would read and then another poet would read, and they would sort of be counterpoint to each other. But the thing is that what I do like about the program, the way that it has developed, is that Ron is here. And I know a lot of times when we're going through the program, I know he's inspired to write new poetry, but the fact that he has two books, that he can share with us. And I'm sure that, Ron, as we were speaking, that you probably thought about pieces in your books that you might want to share with us. Can you share one of those pieces with us now?
Yeah, this one here, and just come across because it ties into even our conversation. Archaeological Cafe,
Yes.
hidden treasure within you.
Mm-hmm.
And so here, this one that really follows behind the previous one I just read. Quietness in the morning sound. And this is important before I'm going to get right into it, because in the morning is when you want to find solitude, solace, when you want to feel an awakening of what will become a new day, a new moment in your life. Because we said before, it's nothing worse than somebody rolling on the other side of the bed all mad at the world.
That's right.
But let me read this.
Yeah, please.
Quietness in the morning sound. Quietness in the morning sound, listening to God's voice speak softly, calling us out of a sleep. God's presence is near. We call on him at times, and we are not aware as to why when our despair moments rises. Romans 8:24 says the Holy Spirit makes intercession long before our situation occur. Regardless of how we feel, think, or just a moment to know what God wants us to do. Our assignment has already been delivered. Walking softly lets us listen to the sounds of the inner soul, feeling a warmth so unimaginable it causes a challenge to the very voice of human nature that challenges our faith. It's easy to call God when pain, stress, aggravation, depression, worries, so on and so on, and haunts the mind. But listening takes another beat to the marching band when no physical sounds are disturbed, only silence. Only a chalice whispering wraps around brings comfort before any obligation, while construction rebuilds his kingdom inside the membranes of the DNA. Who are you, and what's your purpose under the stars of heaven? So why cry rather than listen to the voice of joy that as we know it, cometh in the morning? Joy is that unspeakable joy, unexplainable feeling when we just need a reviving of faith. Believers are supposed to have a rejuvenating moment, replenishing the inner spirit every morning. Thus, this is how we know we are born again. So, just listen to the footsteps of God's presence. It's a clear distinction to his walk, so eloquently stern and powerful. With his presence, feel the earth shake and the soil moves aside, clearing a path to receive the litany from his scroll of instruction.
Yeah, I love that. And again, this the program, Poetically Speaking, it's a place for the spoken word, but also it's the home of the Poets Cafe. And it's interesting, Ron, as I look at your works and go back to your first book, and you say we see colors, the organic flavors of life, and in this book, and I like to read this poem here. And this again, we talk about the Poets Cafe, but Ron, back in the day, 2019, you wrote a poem called House of Poetry. And I think that would be very appropriate at this time, and I'd like to read that. House of Poetry, and it goes here, in a chocolate mocha latte cream moment. Poetry comes alive, seeking the quiet noise as each swallow rolls down your throat, reminiscing each flavor as it smooths its way to comfort the mind, comfort the soul, while writing a song without music or lyrics, without any rhyme or either rhythm or rhyme. Writing my thoughts on a page where space seems empty and only the image caught my attention. While people behind the closed thoughts, I tried to muffle my way to some sense of understanding as to what I was writing about. Silence comes on like howling winds amid a complex moment. The expression on my face screamed at me, "Wake up from this daze," as everyone around stared, and a loud voice inside my head yelled, "Why? I'm only asleep." It was my name they were calling. I heard a marching band coming down the street when I turned around and saw clowns looking at me, laughing my emotion, twisting my attitude to a subtle state, reminding me it's not about the blues, but the words are wrong. The ones I used to frame my thoughts is the reason why I cannot write my own song. And so again, I think that's profound in the sense that the poet is always striving for that word, right? That phrase, that moment. And like I said, a lot of times, if you don't capture that moment when it comes to you, you're gonna lose that. And that's why they say that creative people should always have by their bedside a little pad where they can write down their notes. But I don't know about you, Ron, but I guess some of my best ideas between the hours of 5 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 when I get up, because when you're lying in bed, your mind is sort of free from a lot of distractions because you really haven't started your day. So everything is sort of clear, and it leaves room for a lot of creativity. And so those who write poetry, those who write other things, that there is a best time. But I spoke to this brother. He said that there's no best time for him because he writes anytime, morning, noon, or night. But it just in terms of I just want to go up to your process. Would you say that poems just come to you, or do you have to think about them a lot, or what is your process? Is there any particular way that you write your poetry or come about your ideas?
Mine comes to me by listening, whether it's a word, whether it's a thought, whatever the case may be, my surroundings. You can write poetry from your own thinking. How many people even start to write poetry around your own madness? You screaming and hollering at somebody.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And your own self. I always use this metaphor as me, myself, and I. And I say, who you talking to?
That's right. You talking to?
What do we have to do with anything? So you blame
funny.
everybody all around you rather than look at the reasons why you are screaming and what are you screaming about. And that's what's important. So words and conversation, as you see me all the time, even here, even as I listen to, the music or lit or one of the books or titles or somebody else's poetry, whatnot, something hits me and I jot down that something. And then I build on that, which is my thought, centered around what it is that I'm listening to and listening for. And as I always say, there's a clear distinction now, listening to and listening for. See, listening for is not about me jumping in, interjecting on what's being presented unless I clearly understand something. So I have to listen for, so I get an understanding what is the message, what is the platform about, where's this author or the lyrics or the song, where's it going, where's it come from? And that's the whole point of, for me, when I start writing.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, and that's why, again, when I talk about music, I said music is poetry, and poetry is music, because I can see someone reciting your poetry, but also I can see somebody singing your poetry. As if we, in our travels and our journey, we met a young woman or a young man who's a singer-songwriter, maybe put some music to your lyrics and also sing those lyrics, because I know, like, some of my favorite recording artists like Marvin Gaye or Tina Marie or Bobby Womack, people who they write songs from their experience. It's almost like they open their diary and they're sharing their words, and their words are so deep but also universal. And I think one of the things that you really can't do, you can't please everybody. There's some poems that people are going to love, and some people that people are going to hate, and there's some poems that people are going to be indifferent to. But I think we should always congratulate the poet, the singer, the songwriter who's sharing these things with us, because so many people, Ron, and it really hurts me when I hear this. People talk about, yeah, I'm going to write a book someday. I'm going to write a poem someday. And let me tell you something. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When is someday? Okay, I don't see that on the calendar, but I tell you, you don't have to share with everybody or anybody for that matter. Sometimes just writing and just get your ideas down on paper, because we all got so much going through our heads. it's for me. I know it's for me. It's a comfort to just sometimes sit out to write a poem, to write an essay, to write an article that I'm gonna put on Facebook. And for me, it's like just sharing my humanness, because there's somebody who's going through what I've gone through. You know, again, the Bible said there's nothing new under the sun, which simply means that what you've gone through, whether it be terrible, whether it be happiness or whatnot, other people have gone through that. And again, and so we're not alone in that. But I think one of the things about poetry is that we get a chance to share ourselves. So again, we're not so lonely. I think one of the things about this life is that there's loneliness. There's loneliness, and there's disappointment, there's tragedy. But I think the thing that really gives me hope is creativity, because through our creativity we can live so many different worlds and so different lives and that kind of thing. And so I think all the poets out there, all the writers out there, you know, keep on doing what you're doing, and in the legacy of Nikki Giovanni. You know, this is the new book, but this is her last book. But we have almost 30 books that she has written. And so again, get this book. If you don't get this book, go to the library and get other books and whatnot, because, you know, we need to really celebrate her. And as we talk about Nikki Giovanni, I want to throw out another name. I want to throw out the name Sister Sonia Sanchez. Now, she's up in her late 80s, maybe even going to her 90s, but she's still around. So again, celebrate Nikki Giovanni, celebrate Sonia Sanchez, because these women really paved the way to do what we're doing right now. And so again, we got a little more show to share with you, but I just want you to really appreciate Nikki Giovanni for the gift that she was to us.
You know, as an example, even as you was narrating, is that here's one of the thoughts. And as you indicated, you know, so many says, I'm going to write a book someday.
Do it.
That right there is, I guarantee you, if I'm not the only one or the first one, that's going to be my next piece. Because all those who have written a story or in their journal, the thing is they never produce it. I'm going to write a book someday. Now, let me just give you a little synopsis of this. I'm going to write a book someday, sitting here in my own mind, looking at the waves across the skies, and as I listen to all the audience and nobody's looking at me.
That's right.
But I'm going to write a book someday.
Yes.
I sat here staring at myself in the mirror, trying to scream and cry. Why? Who are you talking to? But I'm going to write a book someday. When are you going to get up? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What are you going to write with? Because you don't have no pen in your hand.
Right.
But I'm going to write a book someday. Just a little something.
And that was just off the dome. I mean, that wasn't anything that he wrote down. And that's why, you know, it's so funny, Ron, when I was teaching and whatnot, and I would bring in rap music, and I told students, you know, that rap music is poetry. And they said they couldn't see that, because I asked one student, I said, do you like poetry? He said, I hate poetry. I said, do you like rap music? I love rap music. Well, rap music is poetry. And it's not just me saying it, but KRS-One said rap is poetry in one of his raps. And it's so funny because, you know, we go through this program and we have about like maybe 5 minutes left. You know, I got, you know, and so what I want to do, I want to give Ron an opportunity to just sort of, I mean, bring this all together. And I tell you, man, I'm getting emotional, because this is, for me, you know, speaking about, you know, Nikki Giovanni and sharing some of the poems that Ron wrote that I got a chance to recite, and he got a chance to recite, and hopefully you enjoyed it. But again, let us know, you know, send in some comments, you know, send in some and send in some ideas, maybe some topics that you would like us to discuss, because again, this is our program, but it's your program as well. And so again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and Ron is going to say some things to take us out of here.
You know, one of the most important things, I want to go back in short. Get out of your own isolated thinking, your own isolated box. Get out of this jail cell that you can't even see the bars around you.
That's right.
But it's in your mind. So I started that way by saying this, because something you read in reference to Nikki Giovanni, the March on Washington.
Ooh, yes.
See, too many says, well, the March on Washington, we got to go to D.C. to march. Well, you don't have to go any place to march. You can stand right in your own spot and march.
Right.
But let me just give this piece right here. The March on Washington is the street sign that leads to freedom.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It's a street sign. It's not for you to go and hang out and cry and complain. It's freedom. Our ancestors, our history talks about freedom. Every narration was about freedom. Nikki Giovanni and everybody before her, during, and thereafter, every child today talks about freedom. The point is, do you understand what freedom, what constitutes freedom? You don't have to sit here and beg about a job. Make a job.
Yes.
You don't have to about something to eat. Well, find something to eat. The fruits of the labor. But the fruits won't grow, and you can't eat them unless you labor towards it, for it.
That's right.
And so that's what's important, you know. So, again, it's always truly a pleasure to have this opportunity to come before you, to have a dialogue, to hopefully inspire you, because you inspire us. We come to you with things we learn and, you know, read and listen to. But we also look for your comments to come back to give us something. As I said earlier in the beginning, in reference to the Sister Queen Ruby Shivers, in reference to a child. The Bible said a child shall lead the way, no matter how you look at it. But in the same token, and I would like to leave you with this, even though we have a couple minutes left, let me leave you with this, because we're going to come back one day with this. And it's somewhat of a negative, but it's a positive on the other hand. You know, we talk about men and women, sisters and brothers. But matter of fact, I don't even want to start with that. I'd rather come back with something more open so we can have a conversation around that, because it's going to be centered around men and women, brothers and sisters, and how we identify our position towards one another. But we don't come together like our ancestors came together, even on condition you cannot begin to comprehend today. And so those are my words for this evening, but definitely like to truly say thank you. You know, and again, the March on Washington, look at it as a sign towards freedom. Because Harriet Tubman said, I'm going to be free today, right now. Are you going to be free? Or are you going to write your book? Or are you going to sit there and say, I'm going to write a book one day?
Yeah, again, like I said, you know, someday is not on the calendar. It's really what you make it. And again, and it really is no right or wrong about this. A lot of times people get sort of frozen because is this the right way to do it? Look, any way that you do it is okay as long as you get it down on paper. And so on that note, we want to thank you. There's been Poetically Speaking with Jerry and Rod and you. And so the next time I see you, look, good evening. Let's get out of here.